Folks, get out a piece of paper and a pad because we are going to enter into the entrepreneurial lab. Today's guest is going to blow you away, but you got to take notes, folks. Remember, note takers are game changers. Folks, it's a fact. I have personally interviewed millionaires and billionaires, and I will tell you the world's most successful people, they all take those notes. Note takers are game changers. Today is not the day to forget to take some notes. If you're driving a car right now, you might have to pull over a few times because today's show is hot. You're going to want to get out some duct tape because today's show might make your head explode. On today's show, we interview the man, the myth, and the legend, who's the founder and CEO of the PHP Insurance Company. Today's guest started the company in 2009 and now today has over 14,000 licensed agents working with him to provide life insurance for over 200,000 families across these great United States. This guy originally came from Iran, and he built his fortune starting with nothing. This guy started the Valuetainment podcast and show. You can see it on YouTube. In the past, he's interviewed great people like Dr. Judy Mikovits, the lady we just interviewed, the woman credited with helping turn the AIDS virus from a death sentence into a treatable disease. He interviewed the late, great Kobe Bryant on his Valuetainment podcast. He actually just hosted a debate between Bobby Kennedy Jr., that's Robert Kennedy Jr., and Alan Dershowitz, the crazy attorney who says that the government has the right to force you to take a vaccine. He's interviewed Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he's here today on the Thrive Time Show to teach you how to grow your business, the importance of creating standard operating procedures. He's going to teach you how to develop leaders within your organization, and he's going to give you his take on this COVID-19 chaos. Folks, my brain almost exploded while interviewing this guy because for so long he's taught so many people how to grow a company in a way that almost looks easy. In fact, it looks so easy, it reminds me of a guy I went to high school with named Aaron Otteson. We used to call him Audie the Body because he was so thin. And every time he shot the ball, it just went in. He's on fire! And Aaron Otteson, when we played basketball together, that guy could shoot the three.
7 seconds, here he comes. At the buzzer! Yes!
And he could shoot the three so well, he made it look just easy. You'd pass him the ball, and he would hit the three. I bet you, and I don't have hard data here, but I bet you when we played open gym in high school, this guy would hit over 50% of his three-pointers. This guy, Aaron Otteson, is an incredible three-point shooter.
For the win! Yes! Yes!
And the point is, Aaron Otteson made it look easy to shoot three-pointers, and Patrick Bet-David makes it look easy to grow a business. Grab that pen, grab that pad. It's now time to enter into the dojo of Mojo Faux Show. It's the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. And today's interview with Patrick Bet-David.
3, 2, 1, boom! You are now entering the dojo of Mojo and the Thrive Time Show.
Thrive Time Show on the microphone. What is this? Top of the iTunes charts in the category of business. Drilling down on business topics like we are a dentist. Providing you with mentorship like you are an apprentice. And we go so fast that you might get motion sickness. Grab a pen and pad to the lab. Let's get in this. It's time to bear some fruit like some Florida oranges. 3, 2, 1. Here come the business ninjas.
Sonic boom!
Yes, 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 and yes! Thrive Nation, we are in the air everywhere. Patrick Bet-David, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Good to be with you. Good to be with you. How you doing?
Well, I got to tell you what, I'm very excited to interview you because you are to interviewing what Kobe Bryant was to basketball. I first became familiar with you was watching your interview with Kobe Bryant. So I want to ask you, what was it like interviewing the Black Mamba?
You know, the best part about the interview with Black Mamba is the interview that nobody saw. It's the hour and a half he and I spent prior to the interview, which was in a boardroom, just kind of seeing how he was with kids, how he was with the managers, how he treated people, how he spoke to my wife, how he and I had the conversation together, you know, what questions he was asking. He asked me a question. He said, so do you get nervous before any of these things? I said, no, not really. He says, yeah, me too. I don't get nervous about this stuff. I'm like, that's cool. I said, why would you get nervous? You played in front of 15, 20,000 people for the last 20 years and you missed shots, made shots, fouled, lost, won. Why would you get nervous? He says, no, it doesn't get to me anymore. But we had a very good conversation together with him. But that was a one-of-a-kind type of an interview because I grew up watching this guy. We came through the same age. He's an August 23rd baby, 1978. I'm October 18, 1978. He came to the Lakers. I'm a diehard Laker fan. So there was a lot of history behind us.
You look like a 1987 baby.
Look like I'm a 1978 baby.
Okay, all right. Now, I want to ask you this because you obviously have had a lot of success, but I like to start off at the beginning and kind of work through that messy middle to encourage some people out there. So where did you come from? What was life like growing up for you as a kid?
Born and raised in Iran, lived there for 10 years. When the war between Iran and Iraq happened, we escaped, went to Germany, lived in Germany for a couple of years at a refugee camp. Then came out to the States in LA. I was in LA for 6 years. I joined the Army afterwards, went to the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, got out. Day before 9/11, I started working for Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I became a stockbroker, got my Series 7, 66, 31, 26 Life and Health. I went to Transamerica when I left Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and then I started PHP with 66 insurance agents, grew to 16,000 agents. We used to write 5,200 policies a month.
Wow.
Last month, we did 10,625 and started creating content on the side part-time. And suddenly that started picking up. And then next thing you know, we've created Valuetainment and I'm running PHP agency. So that's the story of how I went from Iran to where I'm at today.
Let's go back to escaping from Iran. What were you escaping? Because I think a lot of people right now don't know the future that Antifa is shaping if they're allowed to go uncontrolled. What kind of world were you escaping?
Let me tell you, for everybody in America that you hear talking about how bad America is, I dared them to go live in Iran for 5 years. Go live in China for 5 years and let somebody take your voice away from you. Go live in a country where you can't even complain about the government and say anything. Go live somewhere where you cannot even protest and find out exactly what it's like to live in a place like this. You know, there are a lot of people out there that complain about how tough their dad and their mom is to people whose dad and mom are dead. When you complain about your parents in front of somebody that lost a parent or never had a father figure, it is very annoying. Let me say this one more time. When I say hypothetically, I lost my dad in war, and the last time I saw my dad, I was 12 years old, and I'm sitting next to a friend who's 23 years old complaining to me about how much his dad challenges him to do more in his life. It's very annoying to hear my friend complain about the fact that his dad is tough on him. He's lucky enough to have a dad. So for somebody like me that comes to America and you got people complaining about how amazing of a system America is with capitalism, free enterprise, the freedom to, assemble, the freedom to, do a lot of different things, it's very tough. So when you ask what we escaped from being controlled by the government. We escaped from the regime of me being forced to serve the military once I turned 12 years old. We escaped from being afraid to tell people that my parents were Christians. We escaped from a lot of fear. You have to keep a lot of things under control. So we couldn't wait to leave Iran for that. And when you left, we left saying we're going on vacation, but we never went on vacation. We just kind of left, and then we came to America.
I saw your recent interview about with Dr. Judy Mikovits, where she's explaining the past of Dr. Fauci and Dr. Deborah Birx, and you asked a lot of tough questions that really the people you were asking about, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Deborah Birx, these are the people who are at the very epicenter of the justification for these lockdowns. What is your take as an entrepreneur on what is going on with these very aggressive government lockdowns? What is your take as an entrepreneur, as a freedom-loving American? What is your take on what is going on with these lockdowns?
Well, first of all, for me, I process everything from multiple different angles like a strategist would. And I speculate like a strategist does, and I put odds behind my speculation. For example, an investor says, I'm speculating to say gold is going to go to 3,000. Now, what's the percentage of gold going to 3,000? 100% gold's going to 3,000. Really? Yes. The reason why that speculation of 100% is accurate is because of what? Of course, gold is going to 3,000. The only question is what? By when is it going to 3,000?
True.
Is it in a year, in 10 years, or 100 years? Gold's going to be $3,000 eventually, right? When it hits it is the reason. So when I saw that taking place, I have to sit there and speculate and go through a couple different areas. One is that these people are being honest. and they're protecting us, and they're telling us to stay home and not go to work, and shutting down and, closing down restaurants and 75% and 50%, and no restaurants could be open, close the bars, close the gyms. You put out Gold's Gym out of business. You help 24-hour file a bankruptcy. You help 10 million people who work into the restaurant business unemployed, 15 million people in restaurant business unemployed, 80,000 restaurants have shut down, and they will probably never come back. You've heard a lot of people, 55 million people don't have jobs, but let's assume you're doing the right thing because you're afraid that this vaccine could really spread and it could kill 2, 3, 4, 5 million people. Fine. So let's set that part aside.
So you go in with the assumption initially saying that I'm assuming you're looking out for the best for American people, and the virus might spread to 2 million people. Okay, continue.
Exactly. Number two is to speculate is you're completely off. You're overreacting. You are wrong. You're assessing your numbers and keep changing. First, you tell us in March on a 60-minute interview that masks don't work. Now you want us to wear masks.
There's a lot of confusion among people and misinformation surrounding face masks. Can you discuss that?
The masks are important for someone who's infected to prevent them from infecting someone else. Now, when you see people and look at the films in China and South Korea, whatever, everybody's wearing a mask. Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill.
You're completely off. You're overreacting. You are wrong. You're assessing your numbers and keep changing. First, you tell us in March on a 60-minute interview that masks don't work. Now you want us to wear masks. Then you go to a Washington Nationals game, throw the worst first pitch.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
This pitch went to a whole different angle. And then you say the reason why you didn't have a mask on is because the day before you took a test for COVID. But the other two people, we don't know if they took a test for COVID, and they could have given it to you and you're in your 70s. So maybe you are being irresponsible. Maybe you're not a good leader. Maybe you're inefficient. Maybe you're just not suitable. You need to be fired, and they need to bring the different Cesar to replace you. So it's, again, another logical decision. You're just not a good leader. So number one is you're doing the right things. Number two is your judgment is not right. And then number three is what? Maybe all of this is happening because this is a year of politics and it's election year, and you're worried that if Trump gets elected, now you can speculate and go to Obamagate. Now you can speculate and go to Epstein. Now you can speculate and go to the fact that things are going to come out about the Russian dossier that never really existed, that was a phony thing to hurt the election. Now we can speculate to say really some dirty things are going on. And then at that point, you as an individual have to say, I give 22% credence to the fact that they're trying to do the right thing. I give 48% of credence to the fact that these guys have no clue what the hell they're doing. And I put the rest of it, there's politics in play, and I want to get Trump out of the White House. You get to pick and choose which of those three that's taking place.
You're not white. Do you believe that President Trump is a racist?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Now, Patrick, you recently did an unbelievable debate, by the way. You were sandwiched in the middle between two people that could not disagree on something more. You had Robert Kennedy Jr. on one side. You've got Alan Dershowitz on the other. Alan Dershowitz, I'm going to quote, this guy has said that we have no right to not take a vaccine. He's saying that you could be mandated to take a vaccine. Alan Dershowitz, folks, watch this interview. Watch this debate that Patrick facilitated. It was amazing. And then on the other side, Robert Kennedy Jr., I mean, this guy has done the research. He's pointing out that mercury is in a vaccine, that monkey parts are in a vaccine, mouse parts are in a vaccine. All the research is showing that vaccines cause a lot of injuries and deaths. Can you walk me through what you got out of it? If you could kind of summarize it, because I know our listeners are going to go watch the rest of the debate or watch it for the first time, but what did you get out of that debate?
Here's what I got out of the debate. I got out of the debate what happens when emotion and logic debate just logic. Let me explain. So both of them were trying to reason. They're both attorneys, which means they're heavyweights. These are not lightweight people, and they've had some big battles in their lifetime. They debate for a living is what they do, right? So they can win cases by, you give them a case, they have a higher chance of winning the case. On the one end, I saw Alan purely looking at the vaccine from the eyes of a constitutional lawyer. He didn't look at it from the personal standpoint. He didn't seem like he cared. I don't think if anybody in his life was affected by it. I don't think if he had any kids or grandkids that were autistic. So to him, it's kind of like, yeah, you know what? I don't know much about it, but constitutionally, here's what the government can force you to do. Great, set him aside. On the other side, you had a man that has probably studied this topic of vaccine more than just about anybody in America, minus 20 people, right? I mean, that they do this professionally. Yep. He has gone and looked at every lawsuit. He has gone and see why he went from himself as Robert Kennedy Jr. when he was growing up. He only took 3 vaccines as a kid. He met the now we're taking 72 of them.
He's met the families of those who have been injured, and he has tracked the progression from 3 mandated vaccines to over 70 mandated vaccines. I just want to make sure the listeners get this idea. His research is unbelievable. And I just want to make sure folks know this. If you don't know, he's not just relevant because his last name's Kennedy. His research is copious. It's exhaustive. Back to you, sir. I just wanted to make sure listeners know.
Very good reminder for the audience. He is the top environmental lawyer in America. And by the way, just so everybody knows, he's a full-on Democrat. I mean, 90% of his policies are all on the left. Yeah, you know, he's not a Republican. He may be a little bit of a libertarian. He got a streak of a libertarian, but for the most part, he's a Democrat. Yep. And his family's upset with him. Everybody's upset with him that he's taking his position. But it's something that matters to him. And I think it's good the fact that these debates are taking place. I just hope more and more people are willing to come out and have the courage to debate others, because there's a lot of things that we don't know about vaccines that people need to learn about.
Now, I want to tap into your wisdom as an entrepreneur. So again, just recapping, how many employees work with you now, or contractors, or how many people are you responsible for leading at this point?
16,000.
16,000? Okay.
16,000 insurance agents. Then I have 100 people here. Then I have 150 offices, around 500,000 square feet of office space. I have investors, lawyers, De La Hoya, Gabriel Brenner. I have a lot of different things I have to I'm holding accountable and leading.
So I'm going to go on the limb here. As a former Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year, I just want to make sure I did my math. You manage more than 50 people. Okay, now most people have a business, they have less than 50 people. So if you were talking to people that have less than 50 people on their payroll, what are your 1 or 2 top management tips for the folks out there that go, I just hired Bobby, I just hired Carl. And Carl won't do his job, and Bobby won't either, because you do a good job of casting a vision, holding people accountable, and inspiring them along the way. So how do you do that? If somebody's listening, they say, I have less than 50 employees, and I'm having a hard time managing my people. What tips would you have?
Yeah, so there's a few things that you have to do first. Number one is you got to ask yourself, who do you want to be as a company? Meaning, there's a difference between you saying, I want to run a business that does 10 million a year, and I don't want to have more than 50 employees, and I'm very happy with this. I'm not trying to be a $1 billion company. If we grow 6 to 12% per year, we're completely happy. No problem. Then you have to solve for a complete different formula. If you're somebody that's saying, I'm at 50 employees right now, and I'd like to go to doing a $100 million a year top line revenue, and to do that, I'm going to need around 400 employees, 500 employees. And what do I need to do to get there? So step number one, who do you want to be in the marketplace? A small business, mom and pop shop. You don't want to be a regional. You don't want to go national. No problem. You want to go national? No problem. If you want to go national, the entire game of businesses, you have to ask yourself what it is you're doing that the company is either benefiting from, and what is it you're not doing that the company needs. For example, most of the people that are CEOs and founders of a company, they're more vision guys. They're more, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's where we're going. We're going to build a company. We're going to compete. They're not good in operations. They are not good operation types of people. So for me, in 2015, I went and hung out with 144 CEOs from 65 different countries, and we spent 3 weeks together. These are businesses that are doing 10 million a year, all the way up to $3 billion a year. and we all hung out for 3 weeks. And one of my partners was the founder and CEO of the Victoria's Secret of Australia and New Zealand. Okay, South Africa and New Zealand. So we're together for 3 weeks. He's sitting next to me. He's in his 60s. I'm in my 30s at the time. He has 7,000 employees reporting to him, 7 CEOs.
Wow.
7 CEOs and 7,000 employees, multi-billionaire, charismatic, great at what he does. And I was struggling to be a CEO at that time. Okay, I was kind of like, listen, I'm having a hard time. I don't know what it is to be a CEO. You got to kind of help me out here. It was me, him, and 2 other guys. I said, what does it mean to be a CEO? He said, well, you have to look at it from 2 different angles. He said, one, if you want to grow your company linear means you're growing, but you're not exponentially growing. He says, focus on operations and focus on biz dev. So operations is systems. For example, in every single department I have here right now, every one of them has their standard operating procedure, which means I can go to any department and I can say, give me the step-by-step process of how to do what you do. They will take it on and they'll say, step number 1, you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Here's the 28 steps. Here's the 19 steps. Here's the 17 steps.
Scripts. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the reason why we have that is because I want to be able to transfer it to a new person as quickly as possible. The speed of learning from transferring knowledge to you knowing what to do. I don't want it to be 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be 2 months. I want it to be 2 weeks.
Power.
Okay. Most companies don't have that. Most companies are just kind of winging it. It's not transferable quickly. So you put a lot of time and waste your own time of somebody who's a manager who could be effectively growing the business. They're now double timing the amount of time to transfer the knowledge to somebody. So the speed of replacing yourself is very low. You got to increase that. So that's operations. Then it's biz dev. Biz dev is making sure you go to every single industry convention that takes place. You're in real estate. What are the top 5 industry networking events that happens? Where all the top real estate companies, all the realtors, new technology, everything that happens, what are they go to? They're typically $4,000 or $5,000. They're not $20 events or $400 events. Go to them. So I went to one. This is linear. I met a guy named David Finnemore. He brought a technology to us that we used. They were growing against iPipeline. iPipeline is the juggernaut in the insurance and financial technology. They're a $2-3 billion company. They just bought out the insurance technologies for $350 million. David and I sit down, we strike a deal. We do business together. 2 years later, David has a guy that comes up to him named Greg Scher. And Greg says, I'm looking to invest into an insurance company. Greg and David talk. David introduces Greg to me. Greg brings $10 million and invested into PHP. He brings De La Hoya. He brings everybody. So the biz dev side, if I don't go to industry events and shake hands, I'm not going to meet people like that. But that's still not going to grow your business exponentially. That's all linear. Above it is how you explode your business. To explode your business, you have next innovative campaign and you have leadership development. What next innovative campaign is this? 12 years ago, gas prices go up to $5 a gallon in LA.
Yep.
You're Kia, you're Mitsubishi. You come out and you say, if you buy a car from us today, we'll pay your gas for the next 3 years. And the buyer's kind of like, wait a minute, that is sick. I'm going to go buy a Mitsubishi.
Right.
What people don't realize, it's a $3,000 rebate, but it's a great innovative campaign and it gets foot traffic to come in to buy Mitsubishi.
Love it.
Okay. Coca-Cola comes out and say, share a Coke with Bobby, share a Coke with Patrick, share a Coke with Larry. Whether you drink Coke or not, you see the name Larry. Larry's a person you work with. You go share it with them. That's a next innovative campaign. Okay. So you got next innovative campaign. The last one here on this side that helps you grow your company long-term is leadership development. What leadership development is breaks down in 2 different areas. One is you being able to find the right leaders to recruit. Number 2 is you being able to turn a 4 into an 8. You being able to turn a 3 into a 7, turn a 5 into a 9, turn a 6 into an 8. If you're great at recruiting talent and leaders and keeping them, and if you're great at developing leaders, eventually you do these 2 things with next innovative campaign leadership development, it's going to explode your business. So for somebody else watching this saying, what do I do from running a business with 50 small employees? Ask yourself how much time you spend in the linear side and the exponential side, and then make the right adjustments and you start growing faster.
Now, Patrick, we have 7 minutes, 5 fast and furious questions. So here we go. Behind you, there's a bookshelf. It looks like it says REA. What is that? What is it? Okay. Tell us about it.
It's a bookshelf that says read. So I got all these books in them.
R-E-A-D. Okay, read. I see it. Read.
Yes. Read.
And is there a book on that shelf that has changed your life the most? Do you look on that shelf and you go,
Oh,
whoa?
there's a lot.
I mean,
There's a
you look
lot.
like you're a reader. Readers are leaders. I know I hate to put you on the spot, but I mean,
No, there's a lot of them. I'll tell you books that people have never read. Barbarians to Bureaucrats, written by a guy named Lawrence Miller. I spoke to this guy. I'm like, why doesn't your book sell more copies? It's a phenomenal book. He says, I'm a terrible marketer. You know, another one is Hypomanic Edge. These are two books that people have never read before. It's a small book. Hypomanic Edge talks about incredible entrepreneurs that are, you know, hypomanic, you know, bipolar, how they're a little bit off, a little bit crazy, and they're very successful in business, and how those two come together. And then I have a book coming out called Your Next 5 Moves that's coming out in the next exactly 6 days from now.
Wow.
And it's Mastering the Art of Business Strategy. Obviously, I would recommend this one as well. This comes out next week.
Okay, next question for you. Coming in hot and fast here. What time do you wake up every day, and what do the first 3 hours of your day look like?
I'm a 4 to 6 hours of sleep guy. So if I sleep at 1, I'm going to wake up between 5 to 6:30.
Okay.
If I sleep at midnight, which I'm a midnight guy, I'm waking up around 5 to 6 o'clock. But on Sundays, which means Saturday nights, I get my 8 hours of sleep.
Now, how many kids do you have and why?
3 of them. I got an 8, 6, and a 4-year-old. I got 3 because worst thing you want to do is have 1 kid, because if you do 1 kid, he'll be spoiled. 2 is not enough competition. 3 is just the right amount.
All right. Now, tell me, what does the next 12 months hold for you? The next 12 months, what's the big thing that you're focused on right now that the Thrive Nation can look at or see and kind of, you know, follow you
So
on?
number one, I'm going through a transition right now with one of the companies I run. I just replaced 2 of the 5 things that I do with the company. One is a chief reputation officer. The other one is a chief distribution officer. I'm about to replace 3 other positions of what I do with the company, is bringing a CEO and a couple other things, and probably transitioning out, whether I'm going to bring a new partner in or have an exit. And then Valuetainment is going to compete with NBC, CNN, and Fox as a media company to bring out a different kind of messaging to the world right now that's desperately needed. And I will most likely be moving to a new state. All state. Buckle down here in Texas. I was in Florida yesterday at Palm Beach. I'm looking at Greenwich. I'm looking at California and Tennessee.
Oh, you got to look at Oklahoma too, because it's a big tourism destination for some
Almost
people.
a beautiful place, but you still ask for taxes. I don't want to pay taxes.
That's fair. Okay, we have one of my clients here. He's from New York. His name is James. He's an attorney, and he's here inside the studio, and he has a question for you. So James, what question do you have for Patrick?
Hi, Patrick. Nice to meet you. My name is James.
You.
Thank you. James DeCristofaro. First, I want to thank you for the work that you did with Judy Mikovits. I watched that thing from beginning to end, and she's fighting the good fight, and so are you. So I wanted to thank you for that. You mentioned earlier in the show that people are sort of, these Fauci and others are doing. They're motivated from one of 3 places. Number 1 is they're doing the right thing. Number 2 is they don't know what the heck they're doing, and number 3 is they're hooked up in the politic area. And I think that there's like a 3A also, which is there could be other nefarious, crazy socialist reasons, which that may be a component of politics, or it may not be. But so you threw out some numbers. I don't remember what they were. It's 22%, 48%, and the rest is Is that where you stand personally, or are you just throwing out an example?
I do not. I think there's a lot of games being played. I'm more on the last one. I do think they want to do the right thing. I also do think they have no clue what they're doing, because it's the first time we've gone through something like this before. But I also think that the current guy at the top, he falls in the category of Kennedy, Reagan, Lincoln, and a couple other names for me. And those 3 names, we all know how it ended for them. When you have somebody that cannot be controlled with money, most politicians can be bought. This whole thing why people bash capitalism and they keep bringing up crony capitalism. The only reason crony capitalism exists is because a lot of politicians are like prostitutes. They're for sale. You can buy them for $50,000 to $100,000. And when you can buy politicians, then crony capitalism is happening because of politicians. And then when you face somebody like Trump, who cannot be bought because he already has money, when you face a Kennedy that couldn't be bought, and they wanted to get rid of the Fed and go back on the gold standard, that's kind of going to piss off a lot of people. when you got a Reagan that made his own money, has got his own ranch in Santa Barbara, and he's always had some success, he can't be bought. Or you got some of these Lincolns that cannot be bought. You got a couple different ways of doing it. And, you know, most people are thinking I'm using the word assassination, and I am using the word assassination, but there's different kinds of assassination. It's not just the actual assassination. It's character assassination. It's character defamation assassination. It's, you know, going and creating enemies that are proxy enemies, using other people to come after you. And I think there's some of that going on. And the projection I'm making is I foresee October being a very, very weird month in America, at least the weirdest I've ever witnessed.
Yep.
And I'm just encouraging everybody to anticipate and be prepared. That's all I'm telling everybody.
Now, my final question I have for you here, or my final statement I have for you, I guess, is I appreciate you putting value out there for all the listeners. You really are a source of inspiration and positivity. And I just want to give you the mic so you can say whatever you want before you drop the mic. So, my friend, before you drop the mic, what is one message you want to share with the Thrive Nation from coast to coast?
Look, here's what I will tell you. As bad and scary times may be today, it's a lot better than it was when it was bad and scary without technology, without the internet, without the tools that we have today, without us being able to connect. You go back 20 years ago, you don't know who I am. You would just know me as a good business guy that made money, but you would maybe not even ever know my name, because if my last name wasn't a Vanderbilt or a, you know, Kennedy or some of these names, I would have to really figure out a way to go out there and compete. Today, the great equalizer is social media. The great equalizer is you can put up a mic, get out there and do great things. So at the same time, while all these things are happening and people are scared, it's a also great time for people to realize that when times where people are scared, they're worried, they're losing sleep at night, they have anxiety, they're leading on empty, they don't know how to manage their marriage today, their kids today, going back to school. How the hell do I manage my parents who are so worried about coronavirus, the division in families with politics? What do I do about all this stuff? I also want you to know, these are the times where leaders are born. Whoever's poised, whoever's confident, whoever brings poise, whoever can look into the mirror and look into the camera and look into the people they're working with, and their eyes don't twitch, their eyes don't look nervous. You're about to have the greatest years of your life being here in the next 3, 5, 10 years, because the world's gonna realize you're a leader. So at times like this, if we don't have crisis, we are not able to filter out the leaders. And one thing I know for a fact is we're definitely gonna be filtering out a lot of leaders the next 12, 24, 36 months.
Patrick, thank you so much for being here on the Thrive Time Show. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day, sir.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
That right there is Patrick Bet David. And I encourage everybody to just try to implement everything he just taught you. Again, he started a company and grew it to the point where he has 16,000 plus agents while simultaneously building a massive media empire. And I wanted you to be able to hear what I believe to be Kobe Bryant's last great interview. Kobe Bryant, his last great interview was with Patrick Bet David. And so now, without any further ado, I'm gonna cue up a portion of Patrick Bet David's interview with Kobe Bryant.
So, you know, one of the things most of you guys don't know, we were in the back. Mario was asking me a question. Mario asked me a question and says, what do you think about when you think about Kobe? And I said, the first thing that comes to my mind is my dad. He says, why your dad? I said, because, you know, he's born August 23rd, 78.
Yeah.
I'm October 1878. So you're 6.5, 7 weeks older than me. Right. So when he came to the Lake, I've been a diehard Laker fan since, you know, 1990 when I came to the States from Iran. And I'll never forget this. We would sit there and watch the game together. My dad and I would watch you play. And one day, Lakers are playing against 76ers. And it's game one. If you know my dad, you know he's had a lot of heart attacks. We're watching game one. Iverson hits the shot over Ty Lue, right?
Yeah.
Game ends, they win the first game. My dad gets up and my dad says, Patrick, take me to the hospital. We went straight to the hospital because he was having heart issues. So that's how much we go back watching you grow up. You know, watching you play. It was amazing doing what you did for one organization for 20 years. But, you know, before we get into it and kind of talk about what you're working on today and some of the mental toughness stuff here, if I was in high school with you if I was in high school with you,
Yeah.
outside of your game, outside you playing ball, who was Kobe Bryant as an individual and personality in high school? If we were in high school together.
Much the same that I am now, actually, which is extremely curious. Extremely curious. I had a great teacher in high school. Her name is Jane Mastriano, who I'm still very close to. And she sparked my curiosity in writing. And the reason why I felt it was important at the time was not for the writing's sake, or not for storytelling purposes, but there are things in story, inherently in story, that can help me be a better basketball player, be a better teammate, a better leader, understand emotions better. So that's why I got into it, into storytelling, actually. So it's just insanely curious, man. And, trivial things weren't going to pull my attention. It had to be things weren't going to pull my attention. It had to be things that I had a purpose. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play. And anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
At what age did that goal become crystal clear?
I made that deal with myself at 13 years old.
At 13 years old?
13 years old. That's the
you
deal
were
I made.
crystal clear about it?
Crystal clear.
And where did inspiration come from?
The love of the game. The love of the game, the challenge. Like, I would watch Magic play, I'd watch Michael play, and I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I'd say, can I get to that level? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find out. And so that curiosity to see where I could push this thing led me down that path, I think.
Led you down that path?
I think so.
Now, were you always competitive from the day you were born? You were super competitive?
Competitive with things that I participate in. So I'll put it to you this way. So Michael is competitive in all things that don't make sense, right?
Ping pong.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So he would try to get me to play golf all the time. Mike, I know about you. I've written books report about you in elementary school. I know you started playing golf when you were in Carolina. So that means if I'm doing the math, you've been playing golf for 100 fucking years. I have not picked up a golf club.
Ever?
Ever. The last thing you're going to do is get me on a golf course and annihilate me. I'm not going to do it.
You've never picked up a golf
No,
club?
I did it one time and I was hitting 400-yard grounders.
Grounders.
And so it got my competitiveness going. I got to learn this game. But then I broke my finger during that year, and then I couldn't play much, and that was it.
So the one thing when I see with you, and I think about brain and I think focus. How so many different things brain can get distracted on, and I'm going to put focus on this and focus on this and focus on this. Do you think one of the edge you had over everybody else was the biggest percentage of your focus was on one thing? Do you see it that way? That was my edge over everybody else?
I do. At the time, I didn't really understand that, right? So, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
The world becomes your library to help you improve your craft, better your craft.
Yes, indeed.
So because you know what you want, the world's giving you exactly the information you need to become better at it.
Because you know what you're looking for. Yeah.
So when you size your peers up, how'd you size your peers up? If you're sizing people, I'm talking you're 13 years old, you're sizing peers up, what lens are you looking through your peers?
So at 13 years old, I had a I had a kill list. And so, they used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was 6'4", scrawny, 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was 57 on the list. And so I would look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down. Right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. That was it.
Get a target on them right off the bat.
That was it.
Very simple. That's unbelievable. Let me ask you this question. You say I'm one of the guys on that list ahead of you, and we play. What are you doing to get a feel? Is it is your mind like, are you asking, let me see if this guy's better than me in this side and this side and this side? Or are you just going saying, I'm going to kill this guy?
Well, it depends what year. So like at 13 years old, I played the longer game because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when, the chips are really on the line. So when you played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. Right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17, and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem.
That's right.
You got a problem.
And you saw that.
You got a problem.
And by the way, let me ask you, so that's high school. You go into the league. When you're going into the league, you're going with a lot of guys that were, same age, same class as you were going in.
Yeah.
Were you sizing those guys up the same exact way as you did in high school?
I did, but in the NBA, it was actually easier. Because what I found in the NBA is a lot of guys played for financial stability. And when they came to the NBA, they got that financial stability. So therefore, the passion and the work ethic and the obsessiveness was gone. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be like taking candy from a baby. No wonder Mike wins all these fucking championships. It's like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then you had the players that had that passion, but weren't willing to commit their entire lives to doing that, right? It's a choice, right? You have other things. You have family. You have all these other things that you have to do. The game can't really be your number one priority. And so I was just looking at that like, man, this is going to be fun.
In the Muse, you said, I knew you couldn't do what I was doing because I was obsessed. I'm paraphrasing. And then you said, whether it's friends, relationship, it didn't matter. It was all basketball.
Yeah.
If I'm buddies with you from high school, if I'm a cousin of yours, what happened to our relationship? How did that gravitate when you went into the league and you're determined to become the greatest, or you're determined to become one of the greatest? What happens to our relationship?
Oh, it suffers.
It does suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you understood that. You were okay with that.
Well, yeah. And the people that love you, like friends and family, like they know that about you.
Got it.
So they let you be you. And when you reconvene, you pick back up where you left off. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake about it, everything in between is lost, right? So those long-term relationships, the commitment of time of, taking vacation. Like I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And they'll just take vacations just to take vacations, or just hang out just to hang out. Like I never did that. But it was a choice.
Not though? Why didn't you do that?
Well, because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Now, if you want to hear the rest of this interview, I encourage you to do a quick search on YouTube for Valuetainment and Kobe Bryant. I'm typing it in right now, Valuetainment and Kobe Bryant. And when you do a search for that, you're going to find the interview, and the end of the video is titled Kobe Bryant's Last Great Interview. I encourage you to check it out. And again, folks, I hope that this you've learned something from today's show about scaling a company, about work ethic, and I hope this show has blessed you as much as it has blessed me. And now, without any further ado, we like to end each and every show with a boom. So here we go. But by the way, folks, boom stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. Again, big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. And that's what it's going to take your life to the next level. If you are frustrated with being stuck, if you feel like you just need to go to that next level, you've got to bring the boom on a daily basis. And that boom stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, 1, boom.
If you don't understand you're the one, you won't understand why you're being attacked like you're being attacked. Whenever the enemy knows that the one is coming, he always sets traps to stop them from succeeding because they're the one. And to him whom much is given, much is required. And so the text starts out talking about Abraham because Abraham is the one. And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he was a misfit because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay because he was the one. So he had to live in isolation because he was the one. So he probably was lonely because he was the one. Because he was the one. Because he was the one.
New city, new state, it's gonna be a mean race. All the sins that I have done, I'm grateful for a clean slate. Felt like I was different, I ain't never tried to prove it though. Stack your chips, get on your grind, don't never make excuses, bro. Solid as a rock, loyalty is all I ever know. Doing what you've always done, then homie, you can never grow. Conversations with the Lord, I ask him would I ever blow. Told me I got dead weight, so friends, I gotta let them go. We don't make it. I know that they hating, it's all on their faces. We destined for greatness. I said, I've been patient. I know it's my moment, no stopping, we going. This thing is in motion. What you gon' do when your back's against the wall? You gon' stand up like a champ or you gon' curl up in the ball? I'm the one, I've been chosen, so I'm riding through it all. Gotta keep your faith up so you can rise and never fall. Let's go.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
The devil's been attacking, I ain't stressing from it. Cause every time that happens, there's a blessing coming. Obsessing over problems that you can't change. I have you going crazy, learn your lesson from it. Remember when they cut my water off, homie? Man, reflecting how they cut my lights off too. Dog, I had to move back in with my mama. Had me feeling like a failure, that's what life would do. Gotta get up on your grind, I had to make the right move. Ramen noodles every night, I had some beans and rice too. Execution is the key, don't tell me what you might do. Favor from the man above, no other God is like you. You can knock me down, but I promise I ain't staying there. Feeling like I am the one, we just begun, let's make it clear. Me and Clay clicking up, y'all don't even get it, bruh. About to be colossal, taking over when we rip it up, hey.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Overnight success after 23 years. Got the dragon energy, got another gear. Got a superpower, man, I call persevere. Cause I never have it thought people call fear. I never stop writing when the future's not clear. We're gonna be dead soon and I'm just being real. So I'll be paralyzed by the thoughts that we feel.
So you'll stop begging for people to come into agreement with you. So you'll stop doing polls and census and trying to get everybody to come into consensus with your vision so that you won't need nobody to say amen when you preach because you already know that you got heaven saying amen. The power of one.
Listen to the entire T.D. Jakes sermon, Grasping the Moment, by visiting T.D. Jakes' YouTube channel, simply named T.D. Jakes.